Hello and assalamu alaikum once again. Welcome back to my world of Instagram conversations. How is everyone doing today? I have someone coming in, my guest. She wants to talk about divorce from her perspective. She is a Muslim, so she's gonna speak about her journey on how she got a divorce, which is called a khula, and she's going to highlight her issues, her struggles, and yeah. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. I'm just waiting for her to come on board, and we will take our conversation from there. How is everyone? I hope you guys did enjoy my conversation yesterday, my live stream yesterday. I think it was very informative, and we got to learn and address a lot of issues, especially in the Paki world. Um, so I am just waiting for her to come online. Actually, she is online. I'm just waiting for her to join the stream, and we shall take it from there. And I think it's going to be a really interesting topic because these kinds of issues need to be addressed and spoken upon so that it kind of brings a sense of awareness and helps other people who are in the same situation. And let's wait. We are all set. Just waiting for her to come in. Did you guys enjoy my yesterday's session? Let me know. She's in the house, guys, and we are just gonna connect with her. I think yesterday's stream was phenomenal. Touch on a lot of topics, and we are just connecting with our guest, and we take it from there. And we have her. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited.
Okay, guys, before we carry on, she wants to keep her identity hidden, and we're going to respect that. The whole point is that she's come on board, she's brave enough, she wants to share her story so that she can enlighten others, and that is what matters. I want you to first just do a little introduction about yourself to the audience.
Yeah, that's fine. So Assalamu everyone and hello. Um, yeah, so I have kept myself anonymous. So in terms of my name, I don't mind sharing my age, but everything else I just would prefer to keep private. So yeah, I'm 29 years old, and I basically got married in 2017. So I'm from the UK, and the reason I basically began this page is because unfortunately I went through a toxic marriage, which unfortunately didn't last very long. However, I realized like what I went through whilst I was obviously going through the breakup, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously applying for the khullah because my husband refused to divorced me was a real struggle, especially. And I obviously I'm from the UK, but the amount of ladies that message me sort of around the world asking for advice on the khullah, what is the khullah, what right do we have, how do I apply for it, and these kind of questions. So this is the reason I decided to set up my page, to be able to help and support women that are going through the same thing. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if that's, I mean, my story is very long. I don't know how much you can ask me questions. Feel free to do so, but
Yeah,
that's just a
yes.
little bit.
Yes, yes. I think you're doing a wonderful job when you go through something and you feel that there is a need uh,
Yeah,
to spread awareness. I think you're just doing the right thing. And so tell me, you said that you were in a toxic marriage.
Yes.
Just elaborate a little bit on that.
On that, yes. First and foremost, this was it was an arranged marriage. So I did get married to obviously someone who'd approached my family
Mm,
for this rishta that had come up.
mm,
And at that stage, I've just finished university, and I'm like, okay, I need to get married. So why I'm explaining that to you is because it started from the very beginning,
mm,
where unfortunately, they had lied to me about numerous things. So, who I got married to, him, my ex-husband, and his family, unfortunately, it was
mm,
just they were compulsive liars. So, things like what he did for a job, his education, who was living in the house, lying on a daily basis about where he is, what he's doing. So it was all emotional abuse that would just honestly just drove me insane. And I didn't realize at the time, up until I became really, really ill and depressed, that I realized that okay, this is not normal. So I was pressurized for having a child. They decided they wanted to control everything I did on a daily basis. His family had just control over me. It was more than my ex-husband, but my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, it just everything. So they invaded my whole I had no privacy there, no nothing. So it was just completely, completely toxic. He would get very angry. I never saw any of this beforehand. But
mm,
unfortunately, he was just an angry man. He'd even things like he'd start shouting in the middle of the street. We've been on the train a few times. He decided to start pointing his fingers at me and start a scene. He just liked to do it in front of everybody. So yeah, unfortunately, it just become to that stage where I could no longer take it anymore. I tried my best, but I guess there's only so much you can do as a person.
mm-hmm.
Um,
True, true.
so yeah, just complete lies and controlling and everything else.
So, how
Mhm.
long were you in this marriage again, please?
Yeah, so I was living with him for 6 months. But unfortunately, I decided obviously I needed a break, so I decided to come home. But obviously, because he refused to divorce me, my marriage lasted longer up until I applied for the Hulla. And with the Hulla, it does take a while. So, in terms of going to the Sharia Council, trying to put your statement through. So I'd say overall, so my divorce went through in 2019. So I was actually in the marriage for 2 years. Um, However, Alhamdulillah, I managed to sort of, go away from this person within 6 months. But
Mm.
then again, it was the whole control, him calling me, messaging me, trying to, again, live once I was at home. So I had to deal with that emotional kind of side as well. So it was really difficult, very, very difficult. So
So
yeah.
sorry to hear all that. So tell
Mhm.
me, once you wanted to take a divorce, let's talk about your khula story.
Yes. Um, so yeah, obviously once I'd come home, I had an opportunity to reflect, to decide on what I wanted to do. I tried my very best. I thought, okay, maybe because obviously I was living with my in-laws. I thought, okay, let's try and look at the different options. So I did. I tried to look at maybe moving out of the house. I thought that would be an option, but his mother and they just would refuse to do that. They weren't giving us any other choice. So I tried everything I possibly could. And I think once I felt content, and this is advice I'd love to give to everybody else who's going through this, is I think once you can put your hand on your heart and actually say to yourself that you've tried everything possible, and obviously if your husband is not going to give you another choice and he's refusing to divorce you, and he didn't want to change anything, all he wanted to do is like, no, you're going to come back home and we're going to continue as normal. So I thought, okay, I've tried my best and there's nothing else I can do. I've tried every single option. So that's when I decided to apply for the Hulla. And again, when I applied for the Hulla, there's not a lot of help out there at all. Like we have nothing here in the UK to help us. And I'm sure that's the same in many other places. I'm not sure if you know
Mm,
about yourself.
mm.
Like, do you know much about the Hullah yourself and how you'd apply for it? No,
No,
yeah,
no.
this is it.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm,
I tried to ask friends and stuff, and no one
mm,
knew anything about it. So it's
mm,
unfortunate that a lot of women don't know the rights, even from an Islamic perspective, as well as,
mm,
being able to like
bro-
a lot of people don't even know that as a Muslim woman,
mm,
we have this option for applying for a divorce. We can
mm,
sort of ask for that. It's not necessarily your husband that has to sort of um, take ownership of a divorce.
mm.
So yeah, I did all my research myself as well because obviously we have to pay for this. So I tried to look at the most cost-effective way to sort of. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know which point it cut off.
So
Um,
you were just saying that the last thing I heard was that you said that a lot of women, Muslim women, don't know about khula. And guys, if you don't know what khula is, for the audience, khula is a right of divorce that a woman has in our religion.
yeah,
And we're just discussing that with her. And yes, I don't know about anything about it, to be honest with
yeah.
you.
No, exactly. This is it. And I was in the same position, and even now there'll be a lot of questions where I might not be able to answer. But
Mm,
again, I'm more than happy to help anyone who is going through this, to sort of research as well. Um,
mhm.
because for myself, we don't even have the area I live in, we don't even have an imam that we could even approach. So I can't. A lot of people said, "Oh, you could speak to an imam at the mosque, get some advice," but I live in a small little village and there is no option for going to an imam and being able to speak to them. We just believe that, oh, women don't go to the mosque and that's it.
Mm, mm.
That's what we're sort of told, like, oh, you're a woman, you don't go to the mosque, just men go to the mosque and that's it.
Right.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and a lot of women do message me and they ask like, oh, what is this? What right have I got? If he's refusing to give it to me, to not divorce me, can I do this? And a lot of them, unfortunately, are financially struggling as well. So even knowing the options of what will happen if they cannot financially afford a fulla, what happens then to women, So there is a lot of questions
Wow.
out there, because
Mm,
they have like 4 or 5 children and their husbands are doing this and they can't afford
wow.
400, 500
Mm,
pounds to be able
mm,
to go through this. So there is a lot of questions out there and that we need to educate ourselves about and know what rights we have as
mm,
Muslim women.
mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Right, right, right.
Um,
So, tell me, let's talk about your journey, how you applied and what were your struggles and how did you achieve
achieve.
the final process? Yes.
Yeah. So I think the best way forward, and what I personally did, was that I obviously do your research. That's what the one thing I can definitely advise everybody is
Mm,
do your research, know what your rights are, and because there's so many different things that it's not just, oh yeah, a Muslim woman applies for a khullah and yep, they'll listen to your story and that's it. Okay, there's so much more to it. So
mm,
yeah, I did my research. I found the most cost-effective place. I think I would always advise anyone to apply somewhere. So go to a Sharia council that is close to your home, because
mm-hmm.
sometimes they invite you to go and for a meeting. Your husband or your ex-husband, depending on your situation, will need to be present as well. So obviously, make sure it's not too far away. Um, and so I obviously applied for one that's not too far away from me. And and yeah, and then I got the procedure going. So I made my payment first of all because that's what they like to sort of. That's the first thing, unfortunately,
Okay.
but it just has to be done. Um,
Mm,
make sure you've got your statement ready. Write down everything you possibly can. So I had to write a statement out. Once that was sent, what happens is the imam goes through the statement, reads your story, and then and then what happens is your statement is sent to your husband. So it's really, really nerve-wracking because I didn't make my ex-husband aware that I was going to do this. So they get a letter sent to them saying, okay, this is what you've done wrong. And it can cause a lot of issues. So I've had a lot of women message me saying, oh, my Hullah statement's been sent to my husband and they've kicked off and they're ringing my home. They're threatening me. They're saying, oh, take this off my name. You know, I've not done anything like this. So it is quite it's a very scary, very, very scary procedure. But obviously, write as much as you can down. And obviously hopefully, depending on your situation, don't feel frightened. Because at the end of the day, you're doing this for yourself. Obviously, your husband gets an opportunity to reply back. Um, and this is a very, very common issue where a lot of men decide not to because they get 3 letters sent to them by the Imam. So they get a month to reply. I can't remember the days now because I think every Sharia council varies. But they get so much time to reply back to your letter. The Imam then sends them another letter, like they have an opportunity to reply back. And then they actually get 3 chances to be able to reply back. So my ex-husband did not reply back to any of them, and he kept messing me around. He kept saying, "Oh, I'll attend the meeting," because they wanted us to sort of sit down and see if they could try and sort things out. I think a lot scared about this as well because what happens is the first thing they ask you is, "Are you willing to reconcile? Like, are you?" Sorry, I'm just
That's all
my
right. Don't
daughter's
worry
being
about it.
naughty. Yeah. So that's another, yeah. So obviously they ask you, are you willing to give this another chance? And then you have the right to say yes or no. And at that stage, because of the psychological damage that I had been through, and I did everything possible. I just could not, honestly, I could not see this working out in any way. So obviously, if any of you do go through the Hullah and you feel like, okay, maybe we could get some counseling or, the Imam could talk to us and sit us down and we could, then obviously feel free to do that. But I personally said no, I wasn't willing to sort, because obviously he wasn't willing to sort anything out or to, to fix anything. So yeah, I decided, and then after the 3rd letter, the Imam spoke to me and said, look, he's not bothered. He's not tried to do anything. He just wants you to be sort of stuck in a position where you can't sort of, because that's the thing. There's nothing else you can do. You've applied for the Khullah. Your husband's not responding. You've told the Imam what's going on, and that's it. So the only problem is it can take a long time, and so mine was 6 months. However, if you are registered, so if you've married by law. So for me, I only had my nikah. So alhamdulillah, it was a bit easier for me. But if you have been married by obviously the law, so a lot of times the procedure can take a lot longer because you have to get your divorce through by, so obviously in the UK, if you're married, like you've had your civil ceremony, you have to sort that divorce out before you can apply for your Hullah. So unfortunately, that can take a very, very long time. Yeah, and also if there's kids involved as well, it can be a lot more complicated. So there is plus side for myself was the fact that I was in a bit of an easier position because I didn't have any children. But it still took 6 months to sort of go through. So just a rough idea of how long this procedure can take.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
My personal, and I can be totally wrong on that. My personal thing is because I can't really talk from a man's point of view because I'm not a man.
Of
But
course.
but I feel that when a woman files for a divorce or khula, whatever you want to call it, she's actually tried everything. That's why she's there. So there's no like, I don't think that, I think the imam, because they're mostly male, should understand that when a woman is coming, actually, she's actually done. She's tried everything. And
Yes.
this was like, that's it. So I feel very frustrated when somebody, comes up. Generally, I'm just saying in our society or culture and says, I'm done. I want a divorce, whether it's 6 months, whether it's 6 years or whatever. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, reflect on it, think about it. Maybe you're just angry right now, and
Yes.
you're not thinking. And I think women mostly, and I can be wrong,
Yes.
but I feel that way, that women usually really think before they get to that point,
Yeah.
like, okay, this marriage is not going to work, so I need a divorce. So when she actually comes up to her family or her friends or whatever, her support
Yeah.
system, and she says, I'm done, I want a divorce, she is actually done, and she's trying to say,
Yeah.
I tried to
I've
my
tried.
best ability, whether it was 6 months,
Yeah.
whether it was 3 months, whether it was whatever the frame, a time frame is.
Yeah.
And there is no, I don't think so really. Even if you say no, try get some counseling, I think that just delays the process and really doesn't help you, because you're already
It really
damaged.
doesn't.
And because
Exactly.
you're going for counseling because either you're under pressure, or maybe you have a little bit hope the person will change. Because if you had that hope, you would have talked about it before having the divorce, that listen, let's have counseling and see where it goes, whether it works
Yes.
for us or not. So I feel that
Exactly.
way for women. And you're in UK, and I'm talking from Pakistan. I think it's
Yeah.
even harder over here, because
Really.
of how this
Yeah.
society is, and how it's male dominant, and how the way they approach your religion to control women and stuff. So I think is I've not heard of it, honestly, to be like be a woman getting a hula and all that from anybody. So I can't really talk about that. But I
Mm.
feel that it is hard over here because men get
It's
away
just
so easily. Yeah.
exactly. 100%.
So,
Do you know something?
mm,
Believe it or not, it is actually the same here in the UK. You'll be so surprised with living in such a sort of, like, you think, oh, it's the UK, people are a little bit more open-minded,
right.
women have a little bit more freedom. However, I think it's still looked down upon, which is unfortunate. Even being a divorcee in itself, which I'm sure a lot of women would probably agree on, unfortunately, is is still an issue. It is still a massive, massive issue within our community. I mean, I've had loads and loads and loads of Muslim sisters as well message me saying, oh, they're looking for getting married, they don't have children. However, because of the fact that they are divorced, that men are actually rejecting them. Families of these potential men out there are saying, nope, we're not going to accept a girl that's been divorced. And these are open-minded people that you'd
Mm,
think are
mm,
open-minded.
mm,
And it still is an issue here. And unfortunately, I think a lot of women that have children, I think they find it, and it shouldn't be an issue.
mm,
However, they find it even harder really to deal with. So it's very, very unfortunate that it still exists
mm.
in many, many places. I think probably nationally, it's just an issue where a Muslim woman is a divorcee and they just look down upon
Yeah.
society. So yeah, again, hula, I did not know about the hula myself, so I can
Mm,
definitely agree with you there, where I did not. I know about it now and I hear about it now, I think because I know what it is. But beforehand,
mm,
I had no idea. I just knew, like, oh, there's a way for a woman to be able to apply. We have a right to apply for a divorce. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know nothing about it. So yeah, unfortunately, it still is an issue, which I really think this is why I want to sort of, it'd be so good to educate families,
mm,
educate Muslim people to be able to say, like, we have a right to
mm,
do this. Divorces do happen. They should not be looked
mm,
down upon. But
mm.
I suppose that's just the way it is at the
Right.
moment, unfortunately.
I could say that when I got married, I do remember that you had that Nakah Nama, that paper, and my
Yeah,
my dad brought it in the night before, and I said that one thing I remember categorically that I told my dad was, Dad, I want to have the right of divorce on that paper. So
yeah,
that is one thing I was really sure about, because I said if things get, I want to have that right. So I remember making sure that I had that. And I also remember around that time I was talking to my friends, and some friends were like, "Oh, you're so gutsy to say that," and some friends were like, we don't even have that, right?
yeah,
Nanakanama. So it's like, really, then how if you want to get divorced, things happen. What are you gonna do? And they were like,
yeah. Yeah.
they acted like they were so sure, or they had just closed that door because now they're married, that bus, that's it, we're just going to stay in
Yes.
that marriage, so that doesn't matter. So I
That
was
doesn't
really
matter.
taken aback because my dad was totally okay with it, and he said you will have that right, and I did check everything that it was there. And the other thing
Wow.
that I do know about khula is that if you apply for khula, then you have to give up what he's given you, so your haq meher. Um,
Y-
if he doesn't want it, or if he wants it, that's up to him, and you can correct me on that.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yes. So, in my position, he didn't ask for that back. However, they would look at circumstances. So I was separate. So what they tend to do, is obviously it depends on everybody's individual circumstance. And I know if you have children
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, the imam can argue and say, look, you're not giving her any money. Unfortunately, what she needs that to be able to get by. You're not willing to
Mm-hmm.
financially support her. And with my case, I had been home for several months, and I was not financially dependent on him. He was not giving me anything. I was obviously back at my parents' house. So I think they take everything into consideration. So for myself, I did not have to give anything back. I give everything back that was his. So all the gold that my in-laws had gifted me. Well, in fact, they decided to steal that from my room, even though they gave it to me. And before I had even made my decision, they'd already come into my room and taken it. But I would have gave that back anyway. Like, that's not mine anymore. But yeah, so in terms of Hakmer, I think they do look at it as so sometimes they can make an agreement, so the husband might agree. So if it's a mutual decision and he says, okay, I want you to give me my whatever it is, 500, 1,000, 2,000, I want that back. And they make a mutual agreement. So you return the money, and he's he kind of agrees to let you go. You're very right, and I think that's so scary as well. Like, knowing that you've been married to someone who all he's worried about is getting money back off you, or presents back off you that he give you. Of course, if it was a situation where a guy was, a woman had put accusations on someone, and she was just making, lies, and she just didn't want to be in this marriage, I can understand how a man would feel in that sense. But I think in
Right.
general, you're right, where the Hakmer, it needs to be returned. The wife asks for a divorce. He agrees that she gives the money back, and then they make a decision to sort of go their own ways. So
And
yes,
I and I
that is
I want to
an option.
I wanted to correct you on something because that's what I've understood so far. Yes, we
Okay.
are just talking about the haq meher, which is the right that is given to you from your
Yes.
husband that you're returning on divorce. But mind you, all the gifts, all the gold, all the jewelry, all of that stuff is your right. So they can't take it
Yeah.
back. Hard luck. So
100%.
basically, you're not supposed to give it back, and they can say whatever they want to. In any case, if you and I are friends, let's say we had a fight, do I come and tell you, come on, give me back my gifts, all the gifts I gave you?
100%. Yes.
So right.
You're right.
So when you married, the gold was given to you, was a security for you. You didn't just want the gold and be out of the marriage. So if it didn't
Exactly.
work out, they should have not stolen from you. So they're basically thieves, and
Yeah.
and you were not supposed to feel guilty that I'm holding on to this stuff, because that was your right. It was given to you out of love,
No,
while you
you're
were
right.
binding in that relationship.
Hmm.
So yes, I understand that you give that right back to your husband if he wants to take it, yeah, if he doesn't want to, or whatever that scenario is. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Hmm.
other things that he's given you or the family's giving you, no, it's yours. and
I
and
know
and
you're
and
right. Hmm.
and then the other thing is, whatever a woman inherits, whether it's from her dad or husband or whatever, it's only hers. So she could just take a match and burn it off.
Yes.
She doesn't need to, she's not answerable to her kids, that her kids cannot come and say, give it to us. It's hers, it's her security till she dies. and
Yeah.
and that's how the religion kind of uh, protects a woman. So let's say a
Yeah.
woman was in her 50 or 60s and all her kids are married and all settled and
Yeah.
all, and things are not getting along with her husband, she wants a divorce. That is where that security comes uh, in action for her protection. So,
Yes,
we don't have that right to ask our moms, oh, you have that jewelry, give it to me. The jewelry
give it
she
back to
got
me.
on
Yes,
her wedding from her parents and her husband is for her to keep. When the kids are getting married, it's the kids' father's duty to provide them
to
with
provide
new
for them.
stuff. It's not that the mother is just passing on her jewelry. That's supposed to be her
Yes,
security for life.
of
So we
course.
have that very misconception about, oh,
We do.
women are not given proper protection. They are given proper protection, but we don't follow that. That is why women are. There's so many marriages out there that women have no choice. They're in that marriage because
Yes,
they have nothing. Where are they going to go? Either the parents won't take them back, or the parents are not in this. Where is she going to go? So that is the whole
exactly.
point. That is her security. So this is something I wanted to say since you were talking about it, that
Yeah, no,
I
it's a really
think
good
people
point. Very
need.
good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And it's shocking that that you said that UK it's the same problem. I lived in US for 7 years, and
Right.
I had a Muslim community, and mostly, of course, since I'm from Pakistan,
Yes.
my community over there was Pakistani. But you see, I was not just sticking to the Pakistani community. So I was
Hmm.
mingling with all other, I was very diverse. So I had a lot of diverse
Yes.
friends, okay? The
Yes.
problem with most Pakistani communities or Muslim communities, I would say, that when they're living abroad, they just restrict themselves to their communities. So all the Pakistanis
Yeah.
Muslims have one community, all the Saudi Muslims have one community, or the Irani, and so on and so forth. So they're not really mingling, or they don't have much
No.
diversity, and that's where the
Yeah.
problem is. Why did you move? Then why did you move if you were so insecure about how your kids are going to be or whatever? Then why did you take your kids there in the first place?
Yeah.
So you need to let
100%.
them be exposed. You're making them like really off balance,
Yes.
like they're there and they're not there and they're just stuck. I think that's very
Yeah.
confusing for the kids. And I
It
felt that
is
because they
very
weren't.
confusing.
And I would meet these women, and they're there for 20 years. You don't, you don't know anybody outside your community. No. Sometimes, my husband has an office dinner, formal dinner, or office dinner, or yearly dinner. We go there, and that's it. And I
We
said,
go
really,
there.
20 years you've been in this country, and that's
Wow.
it. And they say, yeah, that's it, and we're happy. And it's going on. The kids are growing up like that, and or they're forced to grow up like that. So I thought that's very toxic. I'm sorry, I'm using that word,
No,
but
not
it is.
100%. I agree. Definitely agree with you there. Yeah, have to say, you're right. It is an ongoing issue, and I think you could probably argue and say the things about the living in the UK as well with things like that. How we have families that are sort of so strict on their, especially daughters. I'm going to say, I'm going to be honest. I mean, like I said, I come from a really small sort of, I don't live in a city. And especially, I think
Hmm,
the cities have become a little bit more sort of open-minded and sort of, but you still get that here in the UK where they are not mingling in with other sort of ethnicities, other religions, other people, and they just, and obviously I'm Pakistani myself, so being a
okay.
British Pakistani, the what we have to face on a daily basis and trying to balance culture, religion, it's so difficult. But a lot of time it is parents who are restricting their kids, and they still have that mentality. Honestly, it does make you think. But yeah, have to agree with you there.
So what do you think? Have you ever asked parents and stuff that, or do kids actually question their parents? Why did you bring us here? If this was
Do you know
this
what?
this was going to happen.
It's true, honestly, and I think sometimes I do think like with my parents. See, for me, I'm third generation, so my mum and dad are born in the UK as well. However, my
Okay.
dad spent a lot of time in Pakistan, so
Okay.
his mentality is like more sort of from. I'm not saying that if you're from Pakistan, your mentality is no, nothing like that. But obviously, he's very traditional. He likes his his more very strong sort of beliefs in things. If he thinks something is right, that's it. There's no sort of arguing with that,
Yes,
which
that's
is fine.
typical.
But then I think
Hmm.
sometimes they fail to forget that, yeah, we are born in the UK. this doesn't exist here anymore. So I know this is not related to the topic that we are currently discussing, but for example, like caste issues, um, that still exists here in the UK, where people look at families according to their caste. They will only get married to someone in the same caste. We are born here in like, for example, like being from the UK, why is that even relevant now? You know, I understand, okay, being Muslim, yes, you know, marry a Muslim, I understand that. But then, you know, I don't understand how even so they look at Pakistani. It's not just like, oh yeah, she's married a Pakistani. They look at, okay, or what caste are they? Like, oh, they're the same caste or they're different caste. No, we agree or disagree just because their ancestors were sort of farmers so many years ago. So even
Yes,
issues like
yes.
that still exist here in the UK, and now that you've said it, honestly, sometimes I do feel like sort of just talking to people's parents and say, why? Why did you bring them here
Right?
if that's what you wanted
Yeah.
to? Because things like that don't even happen in probably Pakistan anymore. I think people there have become even more lenient with these things, where they think,
Yeah.
okay, you know what, it's hard as it is to get married now. Rishte are not as easy. Well, good rishte, should I say, are not as easy as they probably were, you know, so many years back. But things like this, I think people need to just let go of and move forward with life and look at religion instead of sort of, you know, the culture really. Especially with these things. Of course, culture is important. I love my culture. I'm so proud of being Pakistani. I love the food. I love there's so many lovely things about our culture. Alhamdulillah, that I
Right.
love. But then there's so many things that you know, a few things that we've mentioned that unfortunately we need to break the barriers and we need to sort of move forward and sort of get this mentality out of our heads.
Yes, and you
So
see, the
yeah,
thing is, uh, and it's got nothing to do with religion. Religion actually promotes you to marry into different cultures. You see, when
thank you.
you marry into a different culture, you learn so much. And I learned so much. I learned an Irani Muslim culture, a Turkish Muslim culture, and generally, people of different faith also, they had so many good things to offer you that you could learn from. So I learned
Of
so much,
course.
so I could then you just live in a bubble, and that bubble just kind of makes you more rigid as you grow up, and you're not really, I don't think you're growing personally when you're doing that to yourself, because
Yes,
then it's just I think it's just that I think that I would call it that you're not living in reality, because that's the
yes,
protection thing that you're just living in. So I just think it's very unhealthy, and I
it is.
think that different, as long as they're Muslims, marriages should be
It should,
allowed, and
it
even
should
if
be.
they're not Muslim, maybe they can convert them into Muslims, and that
Yeah,
option should be given, and it's
it should
awesome.
be.
Why not?
Exactly,
Uh,
and you're doing a good deed. You've done something that is sort of, it's a good deed that you're doing. So why, I don't understand, why refuse something like that? Why be against something like that when it's good to do something, to for someone to, to sort of introduce someone to Islam. I mean, how amazing. You're completing half your deen and somebody else has sort of, you've introduced someone to your religion. How amazing is that? But like you said, unfortunately, we're
and
quite
and you see,
narrow-minded.
that's
Like a lot
why
of people are narrow-minded.
we can't spread the message of God, because we just like living in that bubble. If we were to like
Yeah,
open up and mingle and let that thing happen, I think we would attract more people towards us, because our religion is so beautiful,
yes.
and because we're restricting it, it's just unfortunate. So I want you to highlight uh, things regarding Khula that you want people to know.
Yes. So I think, just wrapping this up, I think, um, obviously know what yeah, obviously, first of all, know your rights. This is obviously something
Mm-hmm.
that we are able to do as Muslim women. We have that
Mm-hmm.
right. And I think that's the most important thing is we have a right to be able to, if we are not happy, if we are suffering, we have the right to end a marriage, okay? So we don't have to rely on a man to be able to tell us that this marriage has come to an end, or it's their right to say when they want to be done with it, okay? And obviously
Mm-hmm.
another thing is do not suffer. And I think that's another thing. Like, you do not have to suffer just for the sake of, whatever the reason may be, for your family, for the fact that you don't have a right, because you have every right. And obviously other things which I've probably just mentioned before is, know whoever you choose to kind of go through the hulla with, know what they want from you, what they're expecting, their fees. If you can talk to someone about this, do they offer counselling services? So things like that, make sure that you're aware of that. Make sure you're able to travel there and back, because you might have to go down for a meeting. And obviously have, if you can, a friend or a family member who's able to attend that with you, or to be able to support you through the procedure. And obviously, do your research. I couldn't express that enough. And know what rights that you have. And I think that's the advice I could give in terms of the hulla itself. Yeah.
Right, well said. Guys, I think I would like to add on this for those people who are married and do not know anything about it. Do your research. I mean, you don't know where you're going to be standing in 10 years, and you're just doing your
Yes.
research, do your homework. I think connect with your masjid, connect with the head of the masjid, and just ask him, because I think it's important to know what your imam is thinking and where your stand is going to be for you or your daughter in the future. Know that.
Yes.
And for people who are single, educate yourself, know what your rights are before you're getting in the marriage. I think it's
100%.
2020 and we need to embrace it, and girls don't need to be like, my dad said and I'm getting married. No,
Exactly. No.
look it up, do your research, and say, I want the right
Research.
of divorce in my paper. And whatever
Yeah.
other things that are important, you should know about those. That would give you that better understanding. Because I think women, some girls, even in UK, I would say that some girls are like, okay, there's a proposal and it's all arranged and my dad will take care of it. So they just automatically think
Yeah.
that. No,
Yeah.
you as an individual have that responsibility towards yourself.
Yes.
Open up, you got
100%.
a phone, open up, do your search, know your rights
Yes.
before you getting married, and make sure you have those before you step into a marriage. That does not mean that you want a divorce. That just means that you're making yourself secure enough before you, and then that makes you more smarter. Because I don't think so we should be living in that kind of world that, oh no, I
No.
can't have a right of divorce on my paper. What will my dad say, or what will my in-laws say? That doesn't
Say,
matter.
yeah, what will the people
You
say? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be realistic. I think most of the time we are not realistic, and I think I need to emphasize that more. Be realistic. We're not, or I'm not saying, she's not saying that you're going to have a divorce, but the be practical that you need those things in hand. Because
In
God
hand.
forbid,
Yes.
if that happens, you're prepared for it. And if it doesn't happen, your daughter or somebody in the community needs that help, you will have that information to help others, just the way she's already doing that. So I would definitely advise all of you guys, please educate yourself. For those who are about to get married or those who are single, educate yourself. Make sure you have the right of
Yes. Every
divorce
right.
in your paper. Your religion definitely permits that. And on that, I just want to thank you once again for coming forward and sharing your story. This means so much to me personally, because we're trying to spread awareness and empower women about
Yes.
issues and situations they feel very vulnerable in. So thank you so much once again, and you're doing a great
Oh,
job, guys. Look at her page, follow her. She's got great content, and connect with her. And I'm sure
yeah.
she's going to be there to help you.
No, of course. Thank you so much as well. Yeah, anybody who wants to message me, please feel free to do so. And even to yourself, you're doing an excellent job yourself. I just wanted to say, and well done. Honestly, everything I've been watching you, and they've been really important sort of discussions. So you continue doing, the hard work that you are
Inshallah.
doing, because you're doing fantastic.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Keep
Inshallah.
me in your prayers, and take care. Take care,
Inshallah.
everybody.
Likewise.
Bye
Take
bye. Khuda
care.
Hafiz.
Bye.